All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, in all the time off I had, 5 days, 6 days, nothing burned me more and made me sicker than to see our president in Japan lamenting Hiroshima and what happened there. And what happened there was, we ended evil, in the words of John Hayward of Breitbart, who did a brilliant piece on the war crimes of the Japanese regime back during World War II. We'll get to that in a second. But now Barack Obama, the most brilliant man in the world, is either totally uninformed about what the Japanese did, or he couldn't care less. And I think it's the latter, not the former. Here's the apology tour continuing for, unfortunately, our commander-in-chief.
71 years ago, on a bright, cloudless morning, death fell from the sky and the world was changed. A flash of light and a wall of fire destroyed a city and demonstrated that mankind possessed the means to destroy itself.
What mankind demonstrated, what the United States demonstrated, was it had the means by which to save tens, hundreds of thousands of American lives and American soldiers and American military men, and end World War II after President Truman begged the Japanese, well, didn't beg, but said, surrender, it's over. They wouldn't, and they got what they deserved. We saved American lives. But that, don't confuse Barack Obama with the facts. Here's more.
Why do we come to this place? To Hiroshima. We come to ponder a terrible force unleashed in a not-so-distant past. We come to mourn the dead, including over 100,000 Japanese men, women, and children. Thousands of Koreans, a dozen Americans held prisoner.
A terrible force was unleashed. A terrible force? Thank God for that wonderful force of power and the brave decision to use it. Here's more.
On every continent, the history of civilization is filled with war, whether driven by scarcity of grain or hunger for gold, compelled by nationalist fervor or religious zeal. Empires have risen and fallen. Peoples have been subjugated and liberated. And at each juncture, innocents have suffered a countless toll, their names forgotten by time.
And the Americans and the war crimes of Japan have been forgotten by Barack Obama, purposely, I believe. More.
The World War that reached its brutal end in Hiroshima and Nagasaki was fought among the wealthiest and most powerful of nations. Their civilizations had given the world great cities and magnificent art. Their thinkers had advanced ideas of justice and harmony and truth. And yet, the war grew out of the same base instinct for domination or conquest that had caused conflicts among the simplest tribes. An old pattern amplified by new capabilities and without new constraints.
The war grew out of Japanese aggression. That's what got us into the war, was Japanese aggression. Bombing Pearl Harbor. Does this man have a clue? Of course he does. But he wants to blame us. He wants to make it about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. More.
Mere words cannot give voice to such suffering. But we have a shared responsibility to look directly into the eye of history and ask what we must do differently to curb such suffering again.
Let's look into the eye of history, as presented in a great piece by Breitbart's John Hayward. Pearl Harbor, 3,581 non-combatant casualties, including 2,403 military personnel who were killed without warning in a sneak attack by Japan. How about the Bataan Death March? Japanese forced their prisoners to march 100 miles to a prison camp on foot in the Philippines. Many were killed out of hand, including anyone who dared ask for water or was to collapse from dehydration. Starving men were tortured with false offers of food. Between 5,000 and 11,000 were killed. One of the torture methods involved pouring water down a prisoner's throat until his stomach became distended and then kicking him in the stomach. How about the rape of Nanking, involving 80,000 rapes? 80,000 rapes. Japanese murdered men, women, children by the thousands, leaving the bodies piled up along the streets. The rivers ran red with blood. The death toll, some say as high as 400,000. Children and babies were bayoneted to death. That's right on the bayonet. Doctors and nurses and hospitals were bombed and killed and murdered. There was torture, cannibalism, and medical experiments. These were the evils of World War II committed by the Japanese, not to mention the Nazis. There was great parallel there. Hiroshima and Nagasaki was heroic. An evil had to be stamped out and American lives had to be saved, and they were. And this man knows it. Why won't he tell the truth? Thanks for watching. JD is next.